player directly out of the academy.
Yeah.
What does this mean for the club to take this step?
I think it should be a sign of things to come. This should not be a big event, but it is. I think it's an important moment for the club. It's great for Marco. It's our first homegrown player signed from the academy, and this shows a lot about the investment in the academy, the investment in T2, and shows a lot about the pathway within this club. Here's a local player that's come through the academy, played 18 games for our T2 team, and fared very well and shown the right characteristics for us to consider him a player worthy of signing for MLS. So for us, it's exciting times. It's a lot of time invested by Caleb, the T2 staff, the academy staff, and now it has to be a continual process. There has to be players coming out on a regular basis to continually fuel the first team. And the whole purpose of the academy, the whole purpose of T2 is to provide a player for the first team. So it's doing its job, and it needs to continue to do its job.
What did you guys like about Marco that led you to decide to sign him?
Positionally, it's a position of need, and we feel that coming in as a left back, he's going to get opportunities. He's going to get opportunities to succeed, and it's a great position to integrate a young player. He's got a long way to go, but he's shown the right mentality. I think his level of consistency, his performances with T2 have shown quite a mentally strong young player. And for him, the level of investment, the competitive nature of the player, but his training habits are very good. His performances in games have been very good. And I'll go back to saying the level of consistency and the maturity that he's shown for a young player. Physically, he's got good traits that lend himself to being successful in that position, and technically he's very sound.
Do you guys see him as a player that 2-3 years down the road is going to be competing for playing time, or a player that's going to be coming in and playing next year?
I'll leave that to Caleb a little bit more. We hope he's pushing players in the first team and providing enough quality performances that he's in consideration. And for us, he'll most likely be playing a lot of T2 games again next year and be given a couple of opportunities with the first team, and it's a matter of how he takes those opportunities. It's also his development. He's going to be in and around the first team on a regular basis now. He's going to be training with better players in a very competitive environment. So we're expecting him to succeed. We're expecting him to adapt very, very quickly. And with that, we hopefully gets the opportunity and takes the opportunity.
When did you guys make the decision to make the signing? Was there a game or something that pushed it over the edge?
There was no one game, there was no one moment. It's a continual process where we discuss the academy kids and positionally what we need is a succession plan coming into the first team. It's also a player that has been on our radar for a long, long time, and for this year, having T2 and having him get competitive games in T2 and him separating himself in many ways and being a solid performer, the name started to come up more and more. And when we're starting to look at what we need as a first team going forward and depth pieces and also managing the salary cap, he's a player that started to feature more and more in conversations, and we got to the point where we looked at pros and cons, and the pros definitely outweighed the cons. And when you take into account his personality and his personal drive, it was a no-brainer.
What do you see as the kind of the trend going forward? Do you think there's going to be more players from T2 or the academy signed before next season, or do you see every year a few coming in? Where do you think the club's at this point?
I think players will naturally always come through T2. If a player's good enough at the academy level, we'll test them in T2, and that's the need for T2. I think you'll start to see more and more homegrown players taking up minutes of T2, and I think you'll start to see more players coming out of the T2 program. We have to evaluate whether players coming out of T2 and their age are better than those players that we could potentially get in the college draft. And I think over time, you'll start to see that the players that we can get out of T2 after playing X number of professional games are more tried and proven than possibly taking a player after they've played in college for 4 years in the draft. So for us, it should be a continual pathway. It should be a regular from here on out. Now, the volume and the number of kids that are coming out obviously depends on the quality and the individual performances and the needs of the first team. So there's a lot of work for us to do. We know that. We're playing catch up within MLS relative to when we started our academy to when most MLS academies were formed. I'll go back to that. There's going to be a considerable investment every year from now on, looking to see if we can get more homegrown players through to the first team.
How did Marco find his way into your academy?
Marco, we have the ODP program that is branded Timbers that we partner with Oregon Youth Soccer. It was the ODP programs, it was a scouting of the coaches, and then it was a matter of 16s, 18s, and then him showcasing himself and really not staying with the 18s that long and going in with the first team. And some of this is relative to Andrew Greger, him being an academy coach that we promoted, and it's a player that he worked with, it's a player that he's known for many, many years, and it's a player that he was able to take with him to T2. And continue to develop and put him in basically the deep end of the pool and see if he could swim, and he did, and he continued to show what he could do. So it's a player that's been on our books for a number of years, and I think with the way the sport is going, I know it's getting younger and younger and younger through our regional training centres. Players are being identified, and we have a list of players now that we're projecting for first team that are quite young. It's just a matter of will they continue to follow that pathway.
Thanks, Gavin.
Thanks.